Welcome to 5 Minutes in the Word, a daily devotional in the Word of God. Today on 5 Minutes in the Word, I want us to turn to one of my favorite books in the New Testament, the book of Titus. And I want us to see what Paul instructs the young man Titus to teach and to do within his ministry. You know, we already saw in chapter 1 that it was important for Titus to make sure there were elders, make sure there were qualified men to lead in the local church, because there were going to arise, false teachers, people that were going to need to be, confronted. Those false doctrines need to be put down because we do not need to let that error just spread all around. We make sure we teach the truth and we represent the truth each and every day. But we can continue on today in chapter 2 of Titus, and we can start there in verse 1. We're going to see some more instructions. There's going to be for Titus, it's going to be for the local church, going to be for really all kinds of people. And so we start there in verse 1. It says, "But as for you, speak to things which are proper for sound doctrine." And I think that's something that everybody can apply. Titus, me, everyone, that we all need to make sure that we're speaking sound doctrine, things that are grounded in the Word of God, that are only based on the truth of the Word. We're not trying to make up man-made myths or, fables or any kind of thing that we see that is sometimes taught within our world. But it goes on and really kind of focuses in on something here. It says, speak the things which are proper for sound doctrine, that the older men may be sober, reverent, temperate, sound in faith, in love, in patience. So here we're going to see that in teaching, we're going to teach things that are going to help other people. Specifically in verse 2, that the older men may be sober, reverent, temperate, sound in faith, in love, and in patience. Now we might think, well, why is he writing specifically about older men? Well, he's writing to them because older men are supposed to be leaders. Older men are supposed to be people that are strong, that are steady, that are grounded in the faith, that are helping lead and show and demonstrate, be those good examples. Those are ones we look to all the time. The same thing is true with older women. We look up to our elders to help see those kind of faithful examples. It's one of those things that here, these older men need to be sober. They need to make good decisions and be grounded, to be reverent, to show the proper reverence towards God. God is the one that we worship. God is the one that we serve. And we need to make sure we're not being irreverent. So we need to be reverent, to be temperate, to have controlled that temper that sometimes plagues our youth. I know it has plagued mine. And to be sound in faith, in love, in patience. And that's something that, each individual has their strengths, has their weaknesses. This is something he's trying to remind the older men they need to do. And I'll go on farther. This is something that all of us need to strive to have all these things in our life. But he doesn't just speak to older men. He goes on down to verse 3, he says that the older women likewise, that they may be reverent in behavior, not slanderous, not given to much wine, teachers of good things. So we see that he's trying to help older men, older women. He's trying to really start out the gate here and help the people that have been there, that have done that, to teach them that, hey, you need to be good examples in these things. And then I think it's a proper transition after we talked about older men and older women and the kind of things that they need to grow in and be like. That goes on, and we see, these instructions for people that are younger. This is that they may admonish the young women to love their husbands. It's talking about, the older women, that they may admonish the young women to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, homemakers, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God may not be blasphemed. So we see that instruction is going to pass down from one generation to the next, from the older women down to these younger women, and we're going to even see instruction that's going to go down to the younger men. Now, the point of this is that, you have people that have lived, that have had their faith challenged probably over and over again, and they're going to help these younger people to help come up, to grow up in the faith, and to have a faithful life for themselves. My faith cannot be based on the faith of my parents or grandparents. It has to be my own. But the faith of my grandparents and parents has the ability to help make me stronger. And that's the same as true for other families. The same is just true for not necessarily blood relatives, but just for people that have lived. We have a lot we can learn from one another, And honestly, the young have a lot to teach us as well. And so we look at this and we see that the point of this is growth. The point of this is to be pleasing before God. That's what it ends there in verse 5, that the word of God may not be blasphemed. The point is to help people, young, old, to help them to grow up in God and to live lives that are pleasing before Him. It says, likewise, exhort the young men to be sober-minded. Remember, it told the older men they need to be sober, so it's going to tell the younger men they need to be sober-minded as well. In all things, showing yourself to be a pattern of good works, in doctrine, showing integrity, reverence, incorruptibility, sound speech that cannot be condemned, that the one who is the opponent may be ashamed, having nothing evil to say of you. See, that is really the whole point of this, is you have different generations, old and young. And yes, traditionally speaking, the older ones are the ones teaching the younger ones. But I can tell you, oftentimes I learn a lot of lessons from those that are younger than me. The whole point of this is so that each person can develop their own faith, develop the faith in God, and live a life that is pleasing before God. And so all of us need to stop for a moment and be willing to listen. Be willing to hear, be willing to truly understand and comprehend the examples and the lessons that are being taught, that are being shown all around us, that are willing to not only listen to people, but most importantly, to listen to pay attention to the Word of God. What is the Word of God teaching us how to be pleasing? Here in the book of Titus, we've already seen that it's important to have elders. It's important to confront those errors in the world. But it's also important for each one of us to grow and to develop a faith that's going to be pleasing before God, and a faith that is going to help us live a life in service to Him. So today, let's continue to grow, let's continue to listen, and let's continue to serve God daily.